Today, we'll explore Matthew chapter 25 and discover how to find the true Christ. Forget searching for an external God, for divinity resides within you. We'll awaken your consciousness to recognize Christ's presence in every person and how our daily actions can become opportunities to serve Him. Prepare for a spiritual and practical experience that will challenge your beliefs and open new horizons. Don't miss this unique opportunity to awaken to the true purpose of your existence. Before we continue, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. By doing so, you help us expand collective consciousness and share inspiring messages like this with a growing number of people. Together, we can create a positive impact in the world by awakening consciousness towards love, service, and compassion. Gratitude to all, as William Blake said, awake. Awake, O sleeper of the land of shadows, wake. Expand. I am in you and you in me, mutual in love divine. I told my friend, a doctor, that every time he can help people who come to his office, he's serving Christ. Because when Christ comes, he comes in disguise. Sometimes he wears a black mask, white, yellow, or pink, and sometimes a mask of illness. Now, Scripture doesn't mention any time when Jesus was sick, but he makes the statement, "When I was sick, you visited me." Although he doesn't claim to be thirsty, there is a record where he asked for water. When the Samaritan woman said, "You, a Jew, speak to me, a Samaritan." Jews don't speak to Samaritans. Jesus explained the difference between the two waters, saying, "If you asked me, I would give you living water so that you would never thirst again." Now, for the first time, Jesus reveals who he truly is, and it's to a woman. When she said, "I know the Messiah is coming, and when he comes, he will guide us in all things," he replied, "I, who speak to you, am he." His first revelation is to a woman, and in the end, it's a bond that develops in this world. So, if you do something for someone believing you're really doing it for Christ, you'll be amazed at what will happen in your world. Now, let me share with you two stories that were waiting for me when I returned from Barbados recently. This gentleman, a colleague, we used to have lunch together almost every day. For a while, he spent the entire lunchtime telling me about his financial problems. Although I seemed interested, I really wasn't, and I wondered how he could believe the things he was telling me after hearing the same stories repeatedly. I decided that indifference wasn't the answer and that I should do something about it. So, in February of this year, I began to listen with my inner ear. I started to hear him telling me that he had more than enough money. In fact, he had plenty to spend. In May, he told me he had received an inheritance. He didn't say how much, but the first thing he did was buy a boat with capacity for 4 people. Then, he sent his eldest son to university, made extensive repairs to his house, bought a new wardrobe and a new car. However, the most important thing for me was discovering that my consciousness has power. Indifference is not enough, I have to take action. My friend acted and, in the way he did with one of these least, he did it to me. So he said, "Every week, I get my hair cut with a certain barber, and although I moved, I kept going to his shop every Saturday until one day it closed. Deciding to look locally, I found a shop with 4 barbers and sat in the owner's chair. Each week, regardless of my request, he didn't cut enough hair. So, after observing the other barbers, I decided to go to number 4. If you know anything about a barber shop, the man at number 4 is the last to arrive and is moving up to number 1. Sitting in his chair, I asked if he liked the barber shop, and he replied that he loved it and would love to study at an internationally recognized barber school. After discovering that he really not only wanted to be a barber but to be the best barber possible, I began to listen with my inner ear and heard him telling me how he graduated from school and how much he learned. He not only went to school but was also the best student in his class. Later, he bought the barbershop, changed the staff, and even as a receptionist to answer the phone. Now, I see him every Saturday at 11 a.m. by appointment. Here you have a man who saw Christ in one of the least, clothed him with his desire, nurtured his desire, and gave him living water to drink by using his imagination. In this world, all kinds of services are needed, and if there were no barbers, only hippies, and you had to cut your own hair, suppose there were no waitresses or women willing to clean our houses, they are Christ. Every time Doris comes to clean our house, Christ enters through our door. One day she told me about a friend who had an accident. He wasn't hurt, but the car was. So I said, Doris, you can always buy a car, but your friend was created by God, so rejoice that he wasn't hurt. Did you know that this thought completely changed her? She attends the Catholic Church but was never informed that God created her because he loved her. He never made anything he didn't love. Man manufactures cars and can replace them, but no man can replace Doris. That's how valuable she is in God's eyes. So, let me give you the collateral benefits of praying for another. While my friend was imagining these lovely things for his coworker, his 3 children were named beneficiaries of the estate of a man who died in the 1890s. The estate had been in litigation for over 70 years and is only now being settled. Like Job, he prayed for his friends, and his own captivity was lifted. If I could make you realize that you dwell in all, if you're always looking at yourself, cast out, unable to contemplate the other, every being in the world becomes visible. So if you don't see Christ in the other, you're simply nurturing Christ. So you don't know who I am. God himself enters by the door of death with each one who enters and lies in the grave with him, sharing his visions of eternity until he awakens, sees Jesus, and the linen clothes that the women brought him to the door of the Father's house. William Blake, God himself, whose name is I Am, entered by the door of death so that you could breathe. To be aware, to say I am and that is God, you will never find him in any external cemetery because God, your own wonderful human imagination, lies down in your skull to share his dreams of eternity with you until you awaken. And when you do, you will see the linen clothes and realize who I am. You won't see Jesus as another, but you will know him as yourself when the only begotten Son of God calls you Father. I tell you before it happens so that when it happens, you may believe that I am the Father. And if I am in my Father and you are in me, then you are in my Father. Now, he tells us in John chapter 10 that I and my Father are one. There is only one Father, one body, and one Son. There isn't a group of little Davids running around or a group of little fathers, but only the Father. So I tell you before it happens so that when it happens, you may believe that I am the Father. And because you dwell in me, when it happens in you, you will say, I am he. Now, I can't tell you the excitement I feel when in this small audience, you believe so much in what I say that you take it to the depths of your dreams, as this lady did, meeting her boyfriend's mother in a dream. She was asked, what do you think of God? And she replied, Christ is not external, he is within you. When you take this truth to the dream, where attention is the servant of vision and not its master, and you respond to your superficial mind, your conviction is in the depths of your being. A man who came recently told me that in his dream he is trying to find someone very important to him. Seeing a group of people discussing something, he sees the group separate and a young man alone points at him and says, You are the Father. Now, this is a prefiguration, not the event, but a prefiguration of it. The fact that he saw a prefiguration indicates that it is not far off. So I can't tell you the excitement I feel looking at this audience because you are all awakening. I can tell you anything you wish to be right here, ready to be conquered. My friend prayed for the barber and his coworker, and his own children became beneficiaries of an estate that had been in litigation for many years. This is the story of Job, the final chapter, the end of the journey, the development of the scriptures. It may come to you suddenly, as it happened to the 3 of us present here tonight, having come to the end of the journey to the world of death. All evil that the Lord had brought upon Job was removed, as narrated in John chapter 9 when the question was asked, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? The answer was, neither this man nor his parents, but that the works of the Lord might be revealed in him. Everything happened in perfect order. Just before going on stage, a couple returned to tell me that a friend had a dream and said, I will not return. She didn't bring him back, but he himself said, I will not return, and that means resurrection. In Luke chapter 20, the question is asked, whose wife will she be in the resurrection? And he answered, you do not understand the scriptures. In that age, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, because they can no longer die. They are children of God, being children of the resurrection in the depths of their soul. She shared this with those who listened, and he took it forward to share it with his wife. So I saw the inner man awakening. Therefore, it doesn't matter how the outer world appears or what it does, the outer man continues forever, as it is part of this age of death. But as I said before, who wouldn't give their right arm to serve Jesus Christ? Don't you think that if our cardinal knew that Jesus was in the city, he would want to and place Jesus at the head of the table, saying, "The Lord is here"? Yet, he would pass by one in need. You don't give money to those you see in need unless you want them to continue needing it. Instead, give them riches in your imagination. My friend didn't give the man a penny, he enriched his wealth but gave his friend the gift of his talent, thus multiplying it. He is among those called blessed of my Father, come to inherit the kingdom of God because he gave of a talent that God gave him, feeding the hungry, giving drink to the thirsty, and clothing the naked. When his friend was financially bound and disheartened due to limitations, he didn't give him a penny. Exercising his God-given talent, he multiplied it. That's what I'm talking about. Use the talent God gave you. Don't bury it out of fear of testing your power. Exercise every talent. In doing so, your 5 talents added up to 10. If you can only use 2 talents to the best of your ability, and they increased, then you will be highly praised. You are not called to physically share with others, but to use your imagination and see them as you would like to be seen if you were in their position. If you were in need, wouldn't you like someone to imagine you rich? That's what my friend did, and that's what I'm asking you to do. Take me seriously and use your wonderful talent on the right side. We are told that just as a shepherd separates the flock by placing the sheep on the right and the goats on the left, our Heavenly Father will separate us. He said sternly that those on the left did not apply their talents and are therefore condemned to eternal hell. But this simply means that when you seem to die here, you enter the same world and continue until you finally take your talent and use it. Everyone will die. That's the greatest certainty in the world. If you tell someone who's about to get married that they'll be separated in death, they'll think you're horrible, so you don't say it. But when you die here, you instantly come back to life in a world like this. Even if you donated $1 million to a church or museum, when you treat someone like Christ, you do it to me, and the joy you feel in doing so is immense. So I told my friend, the doctor, that no matter who comes through his door, whether it's the richest man in town or the poorest, treat them like Christ and watch what happens in your world. When you lacked, when you saw it in another, and when you heard the cry of hunger and didn't give, that's when you didn't do it to me. It's as simple as that. If you put your hand in your pocket and give, many times you're just perpetuating a beggar. But when you see them well-dressed, rich, and healthy in body and mind, that's when you did it to me. You're really doing it for yourself because Christ is the reality, the true identity of every being. The Lady of the Night is Christ, gaining life instead of condemning it. Lift her up in your mind. See her rich, she can still play the same role if she wants, but elevated from the abyss. Remember, God is doing everything that man is doing because God is man, and there is nothing but God in the world. When you can see this, you will live by it and change your world. Do what my friend did with the barber. First, he made sure the man wanted to be a barber. Then he gave him his wonderful human imagination to see him successful, wanting a barber in his neighborhood so he wouldn't have to look for another. He anchored there. Now the man owns the business, the busiest shop in town, and his coworker talks about his weekend on the yacht, his new car, or the party he hosted in his expanded house. These are the things my friend gave, and the man has no awareness of the giver. Now, let's enter into the silence. In this profound exploration of the nature of Christ and our relationship to the divine, we've uncovered several key insights that can transform our understanding of spirituality and our role in the world. Let's delve deeper into 2 additional subtopics that further illuminate these concepts. The power of conscious imagination and spiritual practice. The stories shared in this lecture highlight the transformative power of conscious imagination. When we use our imagination to envision positive outcomes for others, we're not just engaging in wishful thinking, we're tapping into a profound spiritual truth. This practice aligns with the concept of creative visualization found in many spiritual traditions. By consciously directing our imagination towards uplifting scenarios for others, we're participating in a form of prayer that goes beyond mere words. We're actively co-creating with the divine, using the gift of imagination that reflects our divine nature. This practice can be seen as a form of meditation, where instead of emptying our minds, we fill them with positive, life-affirming images for others. To incorporate this into your spiritual practice, set aside time each day for conscious imagination. Choose a person or situation to focus on. Vividly imagine the most positive outcome possible, engaging all your senses. Feel the emotions of joy and gratitude as if this outcome has already manifested. Release the image without attachment, trusting in the divine process. This practice not only benefits others but also transforms the practitioner, aligning them more closely with their divine nature and fostering a more compassionate, connected way of being in the world. The interconnectedness of all beings, the concept that Christ dwells in all beings, regardless of their outward appearance or circumstances, points to a profound truth about the interconnected nature of reality. This idea resonates with many spiritual and philosophical traditions, from the Vedantic concept of tat tvam asi, thou art that, to the scientific understanding of the universe as an interconnected web of energy. Recognizing this interconnectedness can radically shift our perception of the world and our place in it. It challenges us to see beyond surface-level differences and to recognize the divine spark in every individual we encounter. This perspective can lead to increased empathy and compassion. When we see others as manifestations of the divine, it becomes easier to empathize with their struggles and joys. A sense of unity, recognizing our shared divine nature, can break down barriers of separation and foster a sense of global unity. Environmental stewardship. If all of creation is an expression of the divine, it follows that caring for the environment is a sacred duty. Transformed relationships, seeing the divine in others, can lead to more meaningful, respectful, and loving interactions in all our relationships. Personal growth. As we recognize the divine in others, we're also challenged to recognize and nurture it within ourselves. To cultivate this awareness of interconnectedness, practice mindfulness in your interactions with others, consciously looking for the divine spark in each person. Extend your circle of compassion gradually, including those you find challenging. Spend time in nature, contemplating the interconnectedness of all living things. Study teachings from various traditions that speak to this concept of unity. Reflect on how your actions impact the wider web of life, making choices that honor this interconnectedness. By integrating these practices of conscious imagination and awareness of interconnectedness, we can deepen our spiritual journey and more fully embody the teachings presented in this lecture. We move beyond intellectual understanding to a lived experience of the divine presence in all aspects of life.